Well, all right, let's talk about Baker Mayfield and really this, very disappointing performance by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, going up against a depleted secondary. This Buccaneers team has a depleted receiving core of their own, so definitely injuries on both sides. But still, the Buccaneers have been putting up numbers with injuries on their side of the ball against everyone they played. So to see them really just have a rough go of it, it was surprising. So let's talk about what the Lions did well and what the Buccaneers did not do well. Starting off with this play. This is kind of really, I feel like, the key play here. Not in terms of like game situation, but this is just what we saw constantly in this game. So what you see is it's going to be man coverage across the board. They didn't exclusively play man coverage, but they played a lot of man coverage, which is what the Lions like to do. They kind of did this last year when they had all their injuries. It just started playing a bunch of man coverage. It kind of makes things a little bit easier when you have a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup don't communicate well with each other just because they haven't played with each other. So just let them play man. You don't have to communicate there. Mayfield's going to take the snap on the 3rd down and 6. That was another issue, was just there was a lot of obvious passing situations, partially due to the Buccaneers kind of abandoning the run early on. But right here you see that there just isn't a lot open. And usually you'd say, okay, well, this is pretty early in the play. There's still time. However, look at that situation. That is Aiden Hutchinson going up one-on-one against Charlie Heck, the backup right tackle. Interestingly enough, last year when Hutchinson played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were missing Luke Gadecki in that game, their right tackle, who's a very good right tackle. And so Hutchinson's going to win that matchup. Mayfield has to do what he can and does a decent job on that play. I actually thought in the first half, despite no positive whatsoever offensively, I didn't think Mayfield played poorly in the first half. It was just the team around him. We'll get into the second half in a second, but definitely, not ideal. Talking about the right tackle thing, that was an issue for the Buccaneers. Right here, you have Charlie Heck trying to go out and block Detroit Lions defensive back on the outside for a screen pass. Buccaneers run these screen passes very effectively. And part of it, part of the best teams in the league at screen passes tend to be teams with athletic tackles, which the Buccaneers usually have. The Lions are probably the best team in the league at these screen passes because of, they have Penei Sewell who can run these plays. Here, though, and again, you can take this two ways. You can blame the backup tackle, or you can give credit to the Lions, similar to the last play with Hutchinson, right? Defensive back's just reading this play, getting in quickly. If Heck can get there and make this block, it's a first down. However, he cannot get there. It ends up being an immediate tackle. They lose yards and have to punt the football away. So that was definitely an issue. And even something like this where, you have him one-on-one blocking, not Aiden Hutchinson, because again, Aiden Hutchinson going to beat a lot of players. But here, it's a different player who still comes through, creates pressure. Mayfield ultimately doesn't do a good job at protecting the football on that play, loses the ball. So it wasn't even strictly that pressure that made it work. Also the right guard, which it's a backup right guard as well. So, Detroit Lions doing a really good job of taking advantage of those opportunities, right? So definitely you have to go both. Hey, Buccaneers, not blocking here, but also the Lions taking advantage of that and being able to make plays. Also, one just interesting thing here, there was a lot of deflected passes. I mean, you see, like this is a deflected pass. You also had one here. I mean, the Lions are just ferocious, no pun intended. You see this one's also deflected. That defensive line doing what they can to make plays, getting their hands up. Mayfield isn't the tallest quarterback, taking advantage of that by getting up and making a play work. It was really impressive stuff. We can now go over here. This is a 3rd down and 3. Listen, I'm not going to show every single missed throw of the game, but there was a lot of missed throws in this game by Mayfield. Let's just show a few of them. You're going to see here, he's going to go to Egbuka, who's open on that play. Ball is just high. This one as well. Egbuka is open, and that ball is high. You have this one where Mayfield's going to throw it. This one's a little bit, I'll show it a couple times. It's not necessarily the worst. This wasn't like missing him by like a mile or anything, but the issue is it's 4th down and 8. You got to give Egbuka a chance. These are 3 Egbuka plays, and there were other missed throws here in the mix as well. 4th and 8, again, for some quarterbacks, you might say, are you worried about your box score here, trying to not throw it a pick? But we know Mayfield couldn't care less about that kind of thing. It's a 2-score game. He wants to give his team a chance. Just airmailed it. It is worth mentioning, It was reported he was limping back to the locker room. Mayfield is someone who has always played through injury. Is that happening here? I don't know. But if it is, that would explain something. And if not, then I have a lot of questions. But even this play, so it's going to be a zone coverage concept. One of the rare times the Lions are going to be playing, rushing for and playing zone behind their defense. So for Tampa Bay, they've been very good at finding soft spots in zone this season. As you see, that's going to be exactly what Cam Brate does. Cam Brate is open. It's going to be a little bit difficult to navigate over the middle. There is kind of, some guys with their hands up ready to knock passes away. Again, Lions do this incredibly well, but still, on a 1st down and 10, 2 minutes left, this should be able to get a drive going. Maybe you can get into the end zone. You get the ball to start the second half. Maybe there's something there. Now, this throw is just slightly off and ends up being a great defensive play for an interception. So definitely a bit fluky for the interception part of it. But ultimately, it was a missed throw. I mean, yes, there was pressure and all that stuff. But, if you make a perfect throw, that's at least a completion and you're gaining some yards. But, again, you got to give credit to these Lions players who it doesn't matter if they're starters or backups or third stringers. They're playing aggressive. They're hustling. You have to give credit to Dan Campbell for how well he coaches this team. But, again, for a guy who entered today, many people feeling like should be the favorite to win MVP so far this season, you got to hit these throws. You just do. Now, going over here, I will say this was not all bad. We can show, football's weird where usually if you're, three best if there's usually 3 plays that if they flip differently, a bad game becomes a good one, or vice versa. Here, you think about this play, it's going to be a blitz for the Lions. They have Mike Evans, who's going to be running a deep shot on this one on a 2nd down and 5. Mayfield takes the snap. He's going to look in that direction. It's not even that open, but it's just, hey, it's Mike Evans one-on-one. Why not fire this one? Not a ton of separation. I'm only going to show this once just because there is going to be kind of a gruesome injury at the end here. But just, this is a beautiful throw. Ball popped out kind of at the end there. There were some good plays. And like I said, I didn't think he really had many issues in the first half. So maybe he got banged up at halftime, or I don't know. Again, that's what I heard. Maybe he just had a bad day too. That happens. But ultimately, yeah, it was rough. It was a rough game from Mayfield. Got kind of unlucky with the interception, the way that went down, but also had a fumble that they were able to recover, so got lucky with all of that. It was just ultimately a rough offensive game. Where do you go from here? Well, the good news is you don't have to play Aiden Hutchinson again. You get a get-right game against the Saints, who have not played great, and then a bye week to hopefully get healthy. Mike Evans is out for most of the regular season. He should be back for playoffs, which means the 1,000-yard streak is dead, so that's very sad. Although it was a great run and ended, it's kind of fun that last year the way it ended will be the ultimate ending there. So there is that at least, and then obviously Luke Gadecki will eventually get healthy, and Chris Godwin will get healthy. Egbuka, how healthy was he in this game? Another week that should help. So things will get better, and really the main thing is you just don't expect Mayfield to miss as many throws as he did in this game. It was a really rough game for him. I expect better, and I think you'll see better. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.